Yes, I got a haircut. I don't know if I like it. What do you guys think? Let me know. You guys like my shirt? I like this shirt. I like it a lot. Alright, so this is 28 things about God of War you did not know. I plan on reacting to this video like when I saw it in my recommended a while ago. But I'm lazy. And let's just hope my dad doesn't burst through and I'm not giving the intro. So, let's go. Hold on. Hold on. You guys need to hear this thing. That's very important.
God of War.
Alright.
What a game, right?
Yeah.
If you're anything like me, you've devoured it multiple times.
Give me God of War.
Yet there's some secret things
I beat
that
every
the game
difficulty.
doesn't tell you about its Norse world, the realms, and how it all came to be.
Alright.
I'm keeping this introduction super short as friends. We have a lot to get through, so let me just issue a spoiler warning for the entire game right now.
I've beaten the game
I
5
will be talking
times.
about the plot, characters, and a bunch of other things in the 9 realms in this video. So if you haven't played God of War, stop
Or 28
watching
things you
now,
didn't know about God
go
of
buy
War,
it
even if you
and
played it.
play it. Even if you don't watch
Let's
this
see
video
how much of
afterwards,
this I
because it's
don't
an
know.
absolutely stunning game and one of the best games to have ever been made, period. Fight
It's the
me.
best game
Intro
ever made,
over.
actually.
Time to get started. Here's 28 things you didn't know about God of War, even if you played the game.
I plan on making this video before Cuba did.
Let's kick off with one of the most bewitching levels in God of War, Alfheim.
This took
A
me
realm at war,
forever to
Kratos and
finish.
Atreus have to navigate the conflict
lot.
between the enigmatic Light Elves and the disciplined Dark Elves as they head towards the light of Alfheim, which powers the Bifrost, allowing gods, giants, and, more importantly, Kratos and Atreus to journey between realms. The light of Alfheim is the only thing lighting the level, which is why during your time in the Elves' realm, all the grand, large trees are twisted as they strain to grow closer to the light. A lot of the structures,
Cool.
whether they be
I didn't know
temples,
that.
a marketplace, or the ruins of something we can't even fathom, were built by giants, otherwise known as Jotun.
No shit,
These folks were
Sherlock.
characterized as being opportunistic builders, meaning they built where a lot of work was already done for them. So you'll find Jotun buildings built into the sides of mountains, or wherever there was a massive stone just sitting in the middle of the landscape, ready for them to carve and haul and chip away at to create a brand new dwelling. God of War's initial pitch was grounded in mythological realism. The key feeling the Sony Santa Monica team wanted to
Why
convey
does
was
boy
that the
have
player
white hair?
should feel they were exploring a world where they could stumble upon the gods
weird.
at any time, like seeing them in the form of a shadow in the woods running past you, or through other manifestations that were smaller in scale in comparison to the gargantuan, ostentatious depictions of the Greek gods in previous God of War games. From the very beginning, the tale of Kratos and Atreus was supposed to be ultra minimal.
Atreus, to me.
Okay, I'm coming.
No ornate designs, nothing that took you out of the realism that was originally the plan. This stretched as far as the team not even wanting any metal on the characters at all. Presumably, just having them decked out in furs and leather. As development progressed, the ultra-minimalist aesthetic was softened, as you can see in something as small as Kratos' metal Leviathan holder.
Interesting.
Helheim was the realm that took the longest to nail. Cory Barlog, God of War's creative director, wanted it to feel, quote-unquote, colder than cold. But getting there was tricky, as the designs and architecture for the realm just didn't feel right. It was only after the team looked at all their concept art that they realised that they liked the ones that focused on Helheim's fractured structures and their harsh angles. And it was artist Anis Naim that solidified these elements that we got, and gave us the eerie Helheim Kratos visits.
I did not know that. Oh, you.
Thinking about going solar, but not
Oh my
sure
god.
whether it's worth
I'm getting
your
a solar
time.
charger
Well,
in the mail
before
sometime
we get
today.
quotes,
There are
So of
three
course
things
you're gonna
you
give
need
me
to know about
solar
Tony.
ads. I will be doing an unboxing. Christina Larry, bite me.
Atreus' look was going to point a lot more to the sickness he suffered throughout his life. Some designs had bits of his hair falling out from the stress put on his body, which was eventually replaced by his shaved, mohawk-like haircut. Mind you, look closely at him and you'll see his
I
face
know this.
is covered in spidery scars, which are the reminders of his long bouts of illness during his childhood.
I thought she was gonna talk about
Around his
the,
neck, Atreus wears a yellow scarf,
thing.
which used to belong to his mother, Faye. If you compare her burial shroud to the scarf, you'll see that they're made of very similar material, which is morbid, but strangely touching too. Early on, Kratos was going to meet other NPCs and characters on his journey to the mountain with Atreus. Among them were going to be humans, called nomads, and travelers, warriors who voyage across the land to test their mettle and hone their combat skills, both magical and melee. Both these groups were going to be searching for a way to Jotunheim too, as the realm of the gods was meant to be one of endless bounty, strewn with golden
She just called
fields
Jotunheim
stretching
the
as
realm
far
of the
as the eye could
gods.
see. In the end, the nomads were scrapped entirely, and travelers were turned into one of the most powerful enemies Kratos could attempt to bury his axe in.
I had the
We never
Zeus
find
armor,
out
so
whether
they were
the
not that
travelers,
hard.
aside from their thirst for combat, are still hunting for a route to Jotunheim.
Yeah.
When you think of dragons,
Travelers
you
aren't hard.
probably think of something very
me,
large,
anyway.
scaled, with wings, and that broadly
Okay, well, this guy
looks
was
like
a pain
this.
in the ass.
Not so in God of War. Dragons were designed to look nothing like traditional Western interpretations of dragons, with some resembling salamanders, others basking sharks,
I wanna
and others
fight
still
that.
looking like gliding seahorse-esque creatures.
I want to fight that. It looks like the
Speaking
Leviathans
of the
from.
nomads,
Hold on.
horse-esque creatures.
That looks like the Leviathans
Speaking of
from
the
first
nomads,
Avengers
I'm
movie.
not quite sure what happened to them. They're mentioned in the art of God of War, with their presence in the game meant to be a more grounded and realistic portrayal of survival in Kratos' world as they searched for Jotunheim. They may have been repurposed into these Reavers, who are the only human enemies we run into during the entire game, and
think they're the
do
only
kinda match the nomads' design.
This fight is mine alone.
You do that one
Draugr
heavy
are
rogue
God of
attack
War's
and
bread and
it's- you're
butter
done.
in terms of enemies.
I think I did it in my
And you'd be
playthrough.
forgiven for thinking that they're all messed up because of the war wounds they suffered in life. But that's not why they look so broken. The Draugr are fractured like this because their body can't cope with being unnaturally reborn over and over again, as they're cursed to do. The only thing holding the Draugr together is their tortured soul, which is why
I'm
their
stuck
bodies
on this
look like a puzzle
trial
that's been
enough.
forced together all
Might give me
wrong.
God of War save because I want to do all the Valkyries. Like give me God of War,
Going
but I'm
back to
stuck on
Alfheim,
that
the
one.
fantastical look was inspired by practical 80s pre-digital colour film aesthetics of movies like The Dark Crystal, The Neverending Story, and Labyrinth. And then, more obviously, mythical realism and Norse mythology. The ringed temple in Alfheim that houses the Light of Alfheim was going to have a very literal life and death connotations. Bear this in mind next time you're rowing through the realm's tranquil waters, because yes, you should be replaying God of War. Alfheim was going to be a waiting room for life itself. Souls of living beings were going to coalesce in the lake around the ringed temple, and then use the temple as a bridge to the other realms where they'd arrive and be born into humanity as babies.
Wait, so are the light
This
elves?
factors
Could
into
they
the dark
be
elf
spirits
versus
of the
light
dead?
elf conflict in a kind
Hold
of
up.
dark way. It was
Could they?
envisaged that when the temple was controlled by dark elves,
I am
more
recording, right?
stillbirths would occur as the souls couldn't leave the lake to be born, as this version of dark elves fed off the light of Alfheim. I have no idea what the light elves use the light of Alfheim for, or whether they feed off it too, but either way, Alfheim was at one time envisaged to have serious connotations for other realms. At first, the light elves might look quite different from the dark elves, with their long pale robes and lack of wings, but look closely and you can definitely tell they're not so different after all. They were designed to have the same body markings as their dark brethren, and they've disguised their horns to make them look like headpieces by wrapping them in fabric.
Oh, what?
Most of the blood was spilt by dark elves in Alfheim, according to the limited amount we saw, but it's the light elves who really give me the creeps. Like Kratos says, we shouldn't make assumptions about either side, and I bet that the light elves aren't all they seem. When you enter the Lake of the Nine, you can't help but be drawn to the temple with the giant statue of Tyr atop of it. I mean, it is part of the game that you have to go towards it, but you get my point. Whereas we gradually learn that Tyr befriended cultures and beings from all around the globe, and he generally comes across as peaceful and decent, Tyr was intended to be an ostentatious egomaniac, similar to Odin. Balog wanted his temple, therefore, to be extravagant, flashy, and majestic to reflect this. But as development progressed and Tyr's character mellowed, his temple became the Temple of the Lake of the Nine instead, and your route to the other realms.
Leota.
The Revenant
You guys
is an
think
eerie,
Tyr's alive?
disturbing wielder
I
of
think he
magic
is.
with
I think
her
he's
long
just,
neck, scraggly hair, and oh god, would you
like
just
the
say
Asgard
still?
prison.
Anyway, one scrapped concept for the Revenant had her magic not coming from her staff at all. Instead, it emanated from a drum she would beat to unleash her cursed seether.
I hate that so much.
Iceland's sulfur
So
pits
much.
inspired the opening level where you hunt with a trace. Before you can enter the mountain, first you have to find a way past the thick, dark smoke that blocks the
Well, there's the
entrance.
Black Breath again.
While it just looks like normalish but still definitely best avoided smoke in the game, alternate designs included it clinging to the player with ghostly hands. No, thank you.
I may have heard of that somewhere.
The piles of dead bodies in the mountain that you find were warriors who were trying to make it to Jotunheim, the fabled realm of plenty of the giants that I mentioned earlier.
Kind of reminds me of the dead bodies you
his
see
very
in
own dragon,
Pandora's
named Dagsitter,
Temple.
by the way,
In the
and
first
consequently
game.
fighting him on top of
I
it,
just finished the
might
game on
make you
hard
think
for the
that all
first
the gods
time.
have their own
The final
dragon.
section with Ares was so damn hard.
But
But
that's
I,
also. It's
I just had to
incredibly
use
rare, and
Google
saying
it.
it's
We're good.
difficult is an understatement to tame a dragon, meaning that this was a subtle way to demonstrate Baldur's strength and power to the player, as he's one of the few gods who can actually ride a dragon.
This is how fast YouTube is with Brave. Notice how there's no pre-roll ads?
Steve.
The Holdra brothers
No!
don't look that similar, but that wasn't always the case. Due to his intense blacksmithing work with raw magical ores and a ton of silver, Brock's skin gradually changed colour to
I
the
knew-
bluish grey it is in God of War,
I knew
as
that.
the fumes from the metalwork took effect on his body.
Let's see the damage.
While we're on the subject of skin, the Dark Elf King's skin, try saying that 3 times fast, has markings that evoke the natural patterns you'll see on the wings of moths and butterflies. Considering the Dark Elves' insect-like design, that makes complete sense and, honestly, to me, the Dark Elves are a refreshing interpretation of elves and hands down, my favourite that I've seen in goddamn ages. It beats making them long-eared, snobby humans. But before I get even more distracted, the team at Sony Santa Monica wanted the Dark Elf King to look like he had sprung from the natural world, in contrast to the pristine, coldly refined aesthetics of the Light Elves. Hence, his horns resembling the branches of a tree, and his armour looking like metal bark. When you're not busy getting impaled by metal wings or stood on, look closely at the masks of each of the Valkyries. They're each based on an animal: eagle, vulture, raven, deer, owl, bear, boar, and ram. The Valkyrie Queen reigns above them all and is designed after a goddamn dragon, complete with blood-stained maw.
Who else
Yes.
didn't sell Sigurd's
Just
head?
yes.
'Cause I didn't.
Tyr's temple is made of polished volcano rock. The Norse gods aren't like their Greek brethren. I mean, sure, they're selfish, tyrannical egomaniacs who terrorize the realms for their own ends and kill without concern for anyone else, but their manner of dressing is a far cry from the pristine, ornate Greek pantheon. From the very beginning, their clothing and design was intentionally made unrefined and more brutal than their Greek gods. You can see the battles they fought and fights they've got into through their grimy, often battered outfits and tattoos. Just take a look at Magni and Modi, as even the most decorative parts of their outfits are covered in dirt and grime, as if they can't even be bothered to clean them.
Boy.
These nightmares are a cruel parody of Odin's lost eye, which he gouged out in return for knowledge. Mammoths and trolls have something in common: tusks. As well as this giving both of them a helpful extra bit of bone to smack enemies with, it also shows that trolls have been around since mammoths walked the earth. These ancient, combat-loving beings have a strange symbiotic relationship with the rune markers they carry around and attack Kratos with too, with the markers being far from just blunt force weapons. The trolls' runic magic comes from these markers. How they became dependent upon each other and where the markers even came from, I have no idea. And seeing as the troll tribes were annihilated and the survivors scattered in the distant past by the Aesir, and that Kratos killed a bunch of the remaining trolls during God of War, chances are that we might never know. Climbing to the top of the mountain to find Mimir imprisoned by the gate to Jotunheim is one hell of a trek. You've got to make it through feet of snow and a rocky path. But at the top, bizarrely, there's greenery. Senior concept artist Mark Castellan came up with this idea, imagining that the giants spilled seeds that burst into life atop of the mountain before they fled to Jotunheim. And that's 28 things you didn't know about God of War, even if you played the game.
Yeah, I didn't
If
know
you
most
enjoyed
of
the
that
video,
stuff, so I have been bamboozled. Thank you guys for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. Professor Harry actually looks at his phone. We might collab, so get ready for that, and I'll see you later.